What do these people have in common? They're people just like you and me, and they have all loved a narcissist or considered themselves to be the significant others of a narcissist. There's very little known, or in the media, about being in a relationship with a narcissist. I used to think that only really shy people or introverts would ever find themselves being controlled by a narcissist. That was until I realized that I was one being controlled by a narcissist. And it happened so gradually, so casually, so frighteningly, easily, that I didn't realize until it was almost too late. If you've been affected by any of the topics discussed in this video, please, please, please do seek help. You're not going crazy. So we've all heard the term narcissism, but if like me you didn't know what it was until I had a very painful personal experience about it, stick with me as I go and talk to the renowned psychotherapist Gil Hamill about this. Come with me. Hello Gil.
Hello, Cynthia, come in.
Thank you very much.
Come in, have a seat.
Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for agreeing to see me and talk about this topic.
My pleasure.
It's really great to get your input because obviously I only know about it from a personal point of view, but you're the professional. So in general, I mean, what is a narcissist?
Yeah, I mean, this is really, really relevant at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a culture now of narcissism. You know, we have social media, we have everything, every selfies, all this sort of thing. So a narcissist is someone that's completely self-absorbed. You know, this is a person who really is focused on themselves and their needs being met. That's really what a narcissist is.
My understanding of a narcissist is somebody that stares at themselves in the mirror, but like I never understood it as something from a relationship point of view that can be damaging until I started researching into it. So how does a narcissist present in a relationship?
That's a great question. Very charming, actually. In the beginning of a relationship, very charming, very seductive in a lot of ways, can be very grandiose.
Right.
Make their partner feel very grandiose as well, adoring, even idolised sometimes. So a narcissist can make, in the early stages of a relationship, make someone feel very, very special.
I met Michael when I was 19 and he was 23. He was one of the most popular guys in the neighbourhood. He had lots of friends, really good looking, and everyone seemed to like him.
So that's the beginning stage, but then of course it changes.
Okay, because I was going to ask you how easy is it to fall for a narcissist, and how did they get? I mean, when you are recounting, what I'm finding is when I'm recounting my experience, people are like, "But didn't you notice?" And no, I didn't.
Yeah.
You know. So, what is it? The charm? Is it the?
Yeah, that's a great point, because people will say, well, you're intelligent, how come you wouldn't pick up on this?
Yes.
Why would you not notice? Because in the beginning, it's all about making you feel special.
Right.
Because then they feel special. So if they make you feel very adored and grandiose, then they can feel more adored and grandiose. So actually, the signs aren't there in the early stages.
Right.
So there's not controlling behaviours, there's not some of the behaviours that will come out later on. So anyone could fall for a narcissistic person.
Okay, so it's not a weak person, it doesn't have to be a weak, it could be like somebody fairly confident.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes if you're looking for a strong figure, you might be attracted to a narcissistic person because you think that their confidence is real and you want someone to be very confident and look after you. So that might be an attraction to someone who's slightly more nervous perhaps, or not as self-assured. Right. But anyone could fall for a narcissist in the beginning.
At the beginning, he was amazing. He made me feel like the most special girl in the world. He told me he would do anything for me, and he used to. He'd buy me huge bouquets of flowers in my favourite colours. He'd pay me compliments all the time, and in public he was all over me. He told me I was the girl of his dreams. He was never jealous or acted possessively. I felt truly lucky.
So, Gail, in your experience, who attracts who? Like, who seeks out who? Is it the narcissist or is it the other person?
Well, it's always very individual, but with a narcissist, if they want something, they will go all out to get it. So often the narcissist will do a lot of the groundwork. Right. They will work on a person to, charm them and reel them in, kind of thing. So that it's kind of very individual, whether it's the narcissist doing the attraction or whether it's the other person.
Is it? I guess from my experience, what I'm struggling to understand is, do they always set out? Is it something that they set out to do, or do they actually ever have genuine affection?
Unconsciously, what we call unconsciously, the need is to have their needs met, so they will be going all out to secure that relationship. But they will believe that they are being genuinely charming. They will believe that they are doing the right thing.
Okay.
And they will hold on to that. They're not doing it in a sort of conscious way, going, I'm going to do this, this, this and this.
Right.
But unconsciously, they are very, very insecure.
Okay.
So they are seeking that out. So I can remember a client once saying to me, actually, they did everything to impress me, in the beginning, and they would go out of their way in every possible way. I felt so special. But it was their insecurity, the narcissist's insecurity, to get that prize, to win that relationship. And then when they do, things started to change, and the client was saying, I couldn't understand why there was such a shift.
Yes, I can completely empathise with that.
But then suddenly one day we had an argument and I saw a different side. He was aggressive and punching the wall. He walked out on me. I went after him, in shock, crying. He wouldn't apologise and just kept saying, you made me do this, you made me lose my temper.
And Gail, typically how does a narcissist exert control?
In lots of ways, actually. One of the fundamental ways is to actually put self-doubt in the partner's mind. So a narcissist wants to be affirmed and validated all the time. So if they have an opinion, they want you to agree with it. If you don't agree with it and you challenge it, then, oh boy, things get interesting then.
Yes.
Because that is what we call narcissistic injury. So the narcissist will feel completely injured, angry. They become very rageful, actually.
Yes.
If this is someone who's very narcissistic. So they will exert control by kind of minimising your opinions, saying, no, that's not how it was. It didn't happen that way.
Yes.
That's not what happened. So-and-so did this and then this. And you would start to doubt your own side of things, your own memory.
Yes.
So then what happens is you start to doubt it, because in any relationship, if someone says, yeah, okay, I can really see that I did that, you're getting some sane validation.
Yes.
But with a narcissist, you never get that. So you start to doubt your own opinion. So
this is a thing.
Yes, this is a thing. This is a thing. Yeah.
This is absolutely insane, because it's such a small thing. But at a point, I was saying I wanted to have CCTV in the house, just so I would have proof that things happen. Because you just think, how is it? But do they actually believe what they're saying?
Over the next weeks, he would insist I remembered things wrong. He would insist whenever anything went wrong or he did anything wrong, it was because I caused it or because I pushed him.
Or do they know that they're lying?
They 50-50.
Right.
They will believe it because if you tell yourself something enough, you will believe it. So they have to defend their position and they will believe it. And if any doubt comes in, they might be wrong. It's too painful for them, because they've got to remember a narcissist is actually a very insecure person. So to admit that they're wrong, whoa, that's too painful. So it's much better to project, what we call a projection. So if you imagine a projector putting a picture onto a wall, they project what they feel about themselves onto the other person.
Which is why they call people selfish when they're actually being selfish
themselves. Yes, you're so selfish. You never listen to me. It's all about you. Yes. So the things that are about themselves, they will say. And you know, clients have said to me before, I wished I'd had a recording, or because none of my friends would believe me because they see this charming, capable, nice person, and then they don't see behind closed doors how detrimental, and they change.
What you mentioned the insecurities. Where does this come from? Is this to do with childhood, or what is it?
Where does it come from?
Yes.
It's very specific, of course, to each individual, but usually it's from an unmet need, a severe unmet need in childhood, or an experience of perhaps a narcissistic parent.
Right.
So maybe some learned behaviours around control and grandiosity and selfishness, but usually it's because there's been an unmet attachment. So they've not learned about real intimacy, real relationship, you know, between a child and a parent.
Yes.
Where you would, what we call serve and return, so you would have a dialogue and you would mentalise things for one another, and you would respond in love and kind, and usually that's been missing with a narcissistic person in their childhood.
Wow.
So they don't really ever learn, so they're actually very vulnerable, very insecure. There's some people in the political world, perhaps, will say that have come from very difficult backgrounds, and some people have turned that around and some people have gone into a narcissistic defence mode.
Yeah. So is it ever worth trying to save a narcissist? Is there a cure for narcissism? Can they ever have healthy relationships?
Well, you won't have a narcissist coming into therapy to help themselves. You would have a narcissist coming to therapy because they have a problem with someone.
Right.
So that's the only way they would access any help, is if I've got a problem with my partner. Okay. My partner is not doing this, this and this.
Right.
So they would come into therapy, but they would never come into therapy by thinking, I have an issue here.
Can that be turned around when they come in for their partner? Can that ever be turned around, or is it?
It takes skill. It takes a skilled therapist to know when they're dealing with a narcissistic person that they can meander around things and maybe get them to see some of their traits and some of their behaviours, but very rarely can anyone in a relationship with a narcissist influence it.
Right, so
you can't rescue it.
No, your best reaction is to run.
Well, yes, clients
save yourself.
Save yourself. Clients have said to me, "But love conquers all. You know, we can do this. Love conquers all." It doesn't with a narcissist, I'm afraid, because that is not going to cure them. They're not going to suddenly start reciprocating and thinking about your feelings. They don't know how to. They're too vulnerable. They're too defended. So, you know, as a therapist, we like to think anyone can change. You know, we want to help people, but you rarely have narcissistic people come into therapy about themselves.
Wow. That's really profound, because I think with a lot of with relationships we're taught you can communicate and talk things through and etc., but actually sometimes it's the risk to yourself is just not.
Yes,
it's too great, and it's almost a lost cause.
Yes,
because if they can't see what you were talking about, then how are you going to solve it?
That's right. So, for instance, I remember a couple I worked with a number of years ago that came into therapy for some relationship issues, and very soon it became apparent to me that one of the people in the relationship was a narcissist. And as we went through the therapy, I could see this wasn't going to change.
Right.
So then part of that process would be to see them individually,
right.
and I would say to this person, this isn't going to change for you.
Right.
So you really need to make a decision.
Right. Wow.
You know, it's really difficult. And she, you know, this particular person had never heard of narcissism. She'd never heard of what this whole thing was.
I hadn't either. Yeah. I'd heard of narcissism, but I just assumed you were someone that liked looking at themselves in the mirror.
Yes,
and I thought,
it.
That's fairly
big
harmless.
ego.
Exactly,
yeah.
But I didn't think it was anything that could impact on an actual relationship, let alone, you know, remain there for so long and be reduced and reduced and reduced, and yet outwardly to the rest of the world it looked wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is often why people stay in narcissistic relationships, because the outside world, it does look wonderful. So you don't get validated by your friends in saying you should get out of this because it looks so good.
Yes.
To the external view, doesn't it?
I remember talking to a particular friend, and I remember first time I actually tried to talk about things that I knew weren't right in my relationship. And I remember she went, "But I don't know what you're complaining about. Like, if that's all he does." And I just thought, actually, yeah, maybe. But that was just one little thing out of millions that had just served to reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce, who I was.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Yes.
That's
And then that places doubt, because you're reducing, that's a good word, you're reducing, and then your friend says, actually, there's nothing for you to be worrying about here, what is that all? So then you think, oh, maybe it is me.
Yes.
No, maybe it is me. And that is the stance often in the partner of a narcissist.
Right.
Maybe it is me.
Right.
Have you heard of gaslighting? The term gaslighting.
No. What is gaslighting?
So gaslighting is, there was a film in the 1930s about a man who kept changing the lights in the house and saying to his wife he wasn't, and kind of slowly trying to drive her mad. And gaslighting is when you deny someone's experience all the time. You say, I never did that. You've imagined this, that wasn't me, I never did that. So gaslighting is really common in narcissistic behaviours, that they will say, no, that's not how it was, that's not what happened the other evening when we had an argument, you're imagining it. So that's another really common trait in narcissism, and we call it gaslighting.
So you're not actually going mad.
You're not going mad.
So would that be a sign then, if you're constantly having if you're having an argument, or if you're being made to question your own experience of things that have happened,
yes,
that would be a sign that perhaps...
Yes, that's a red flag.
Right.
That's a red flag.
Okay.
To everyone on the outside, we looked like a glamorous couple. We post pictures on social media, and people would comment on what a good-looking couple we were and how amazing he was. It felt very lonely, because I couldn't open up to anyone about him. How could I when everyone thought he was so amazing?
What else should people be? Because I'm sure, it has come to light since my experience. Several people have said, oh, this sounds a bit familiar. What else should people be looking out for? Because there's so many, it appears that there's a lot now out there for domestic violence.
Yeah.
We're all aware of it.
Yes.
And I think we can all look out for, the marks on someone, or someone who's a bit timid. But how does a person who is a victim of a narcissist in a relationship, at what point should they be going, hang on a minute? Because I know from my experience that it wasn't obvious.
No. It's a very slow, gradual process. A little bit like the frog in the water. You turn the heat, and eventually it's boiling hot, but it's been a slow thing. Yeah. Things like, you would start to notice you doubting yourself more. In terms of being in the relationship, you would start to notice maybe people disappearing a little bit, like you weren't doing as much socially with the people you want to, because maybe your narcissistic partner has kind of fallen out with them, or downed them, or said they're no good, or I don't like them, or so you start to become
familiar as well. Yes,
alienated.
Yes.
So you would start to notice maybe your circle decreasing, your social circle. You would feel more controlled. You would start to do things like, can I make a decision about that? I better check with them. You would start to lose your assertiveness.
Yes.
So you would be looking for them to validate you. Can I buy this paint? Or can I do this? Should I do this?
Yes.
I had a client once said to me, it got to the stage I was asking my partner what underwear I should buy.
Oh, goodness.
And I'd never done that my entire life. I'd always known what I was going to buy.
But it's an interesting thing you say, because for some people, it is masked as a romantic thing to do.
Yeah.
We always make these decisions together.
Yes.
And it's a very fine line to go from making decisions together about what furniture to buy to what underwear to buy. And it's frightening. It's really, really scary.
He started to get angry if I made any decisions without him. He constantly accused me of being proud and selfish. Eventually, all I could do was focus on trying to keep him happy. His mood would veer from telling me I was the mother of his children on some days to telling me I would end up alone if I didn't change my attitude on others. I was a wreck. I kept thinking if I loved him enough, he'd change and we'd be happy.
I mean, we're talking about entrenched narcissism today. You know, we're not talking about the traits that we all have, where we like the odd selfie, or you know, we like to have a little bit of an ego stroke. Yeah. Everyone has that. Yes. This is about controlling defensive behaviours that really disarm people around them, the narcissist. Right. And the narcissist in the workplace, that's another interesting one in terms of relationships. They can change teams of people. Wow. They can turn people against one another as well, because they are always looking to critique and bring people down. Wow. To make themselves look more empowered.
So this extends beyond personal relationships, it goes into workplace
Absolutely,
as well.
Absolutely. I mean, in the workplace, narcissists actually get a lot done because they can plough on through, and they don't really empathise, so they don't really care about upsetting people. Okay. So in one sense they get a lot done, but they're not liked. They don't have relationships.
Which presumably is what they crave.
Yes, the one thing they crave and didn't have, which you said earlier when they were younger, they're trying to get power. They're trying to be seen, but they're being seen in a very, what we call, dysfunctional way.
At this point, one by one, he had alienated all my close friends. I had a job where I was doing pretty well, but he picked faults with my colleagues and the job and told me it was too superficial for me, and convinced me to move up north with him where he found a job.
Can I ask, because in my experience, there was an addiction with narcissism, well, in that case, and even though it was a denied addiction, is it a common thing? Is there often an addiction to either substance or alcohol or something else?
Yes, there is actually. Because when we think about where a narcissist operates from on a deep level, it's shame, and it's vulnerability, and it's inferiority. So one of the means of escaping that is to fill it with something. So whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's work. So becoming work addicted.
Oh, right.
Because we're trying to escape ourselves when we're addicted to something.
And is there, where does humiliating other people, where does that come into it? Where is, because it almost appears that there's no fear of driving away the other person, because like a normal person will be worried about humiliating people, but there has, well, like in my experience, there was humiliation, and how does that play?
Well, that's shaming you. So when we thought about projection, putting this picture onto a wall, the feeling of shame goes onto you. So any feelings that a narcissist can't bear, they will project to you, so they feel shamed actually deep down, so you will be shamed.
So it is actually their feelings that they are trying dysfunctionally to deal with.
Yes.
Right. But and this is quite important actually to me. Why do people repeat the patterns? So if you've fallen for a narcissist once, why would you do that again? What is it about you that seeks out that narcissist?
If it's another relationship following a narcissistic relationship, you're quite susceptible actually. You'd think it would be the other way around. You'd think, oh, I've just been through this, I'm not going to do it again. But actually, because you're vulnerable and you're seeking that kind of rescuer, that kind of knight in shining armour that we all get told about when we're little, along comes someone else who's charming and all about you, and the pattern repeats.
Right.
The pattern will repeat. Because your confidence is usually lower and your objectivity has been damaged because you've lost a little bit of your sense of self,
Okay.
You're more susceptible to repeat the pattern.
What makes someone susceptible in the first place? What is lacking in the? I mean, what is the opposite term to narcissist? What is it?
Narcissist, it would be someone who's completely empathic. You would be a rescuer, so you'd have a narcissist and a rescuer.
So what is it that's missing usually in the rescuer that makes them?
It can actually be a similar thing, believe it or not, but you take a different take. You want to look after people, you want to fix people, you want to make people feel needed, because maybe you didn't have those things when you were little, not you personally, but maybe the person, the individual didn't have those things. So at one end you have the rescuer, at the other end you have the narcissist, And the rescuer wants to fix the narcissist in the relationship, but the narcissist doesn't want intimacy.
No.
They want to be validated and put on a higher position. They don't really want intimacy.
I see. That's interesting. So how does one break that pattern?
In going into narcissistic relationships? Yes. I think you've got to come out of relationship and just find yourself again. You know, listen to your friends, be with the people that you trust, and validate yourself again. And take a step back for a little while, and then when you are dating or whatever, you have to look out for the flags, look out for the things, you know, the controlling. You know, are they a bit over the top in terms of their, you know, attentions on me? Are things reciprocal? You know, there's lots of things you would be looking out for in your next relationship.
When you say reciprocal?
Like, you know, if you say, oh, I can't make that date, oh, okay, we'll work around that, let's work together on it. That's a reciprocal interaction. Whereas if someone's saying, well, no, that's what we planned, we're going to have to stick to it, and you feel yourself changing things for this person and around this person, that should be a flag to you. Hang on, there's some controlling behaviours here.
I see.
So when there's no to and fro, serve and return between in the relationship.
Wow. Well, that's been an eye-opener. I didn't realise it was such an established thing. There's just not enough on it.
Yes. And
yet what is emerging as I talk about it with more females is, oh, I know somebody, or that has happened to me, and stuff. And I appreciate all the emphasis on actual violence and domestic abuse and that, but it appears that there is this black hole that exists that isn't talked about, and in a way is almost more damaging.
Yes.
Because the scars are
very deep. Yeah, and hidden. Yes. Because domestic violence, you know, it's in your face. People know about it, don't they? And, you know, probably 2 out of 3 partners that execute domestic violence have a narcissistic tendency to it. Yes. So there will usually be a narcissistic tendency there in domestic violence, and the addiction and lots of other things as well. But this type of narcissistic abuse is often very passive aggressive, very subtle, and behind the radar.
Right.
So people are starting to come out now. Clients are starting to come in here and say to me, I've heard of this thing, I think this is what's happening to me.
Right.
So it really is getting talked about now. The word narcissism is coming out, although it's been around forever.
But I think we all misunderstood it. We all thought it had to do with looking in the mirror.
Yeah, we did. We just thought, oh, that's just someone with a big ego. But it's actually a very damaged person who can't have relationships, and who, in the process of their dysfunction, can damage another person's self-esteem and another person's confidence. So it's a real problem.
Interestingly, can they actually have, because you said they can't have relationships. Now, to clarify, is it that they can't have one, or they want to have one, but on their own terms, and they want to have it for a very long time, which was, in my experience, what happened.
Yes.
It wasn't, and the process of breaking away was incredibly difficult, because every time I suggested breaking away, it was, don't be silly, that's not going to happen, this is for good, you know. And I just thought, but I'm so unhappy, and you cannot be happy, so why do you want to be here?
Yes, yes, because there's something called narcissistic supply, which is that partner would need to have you, would need to know that you're going to be there, no matter how unhappy you are. I can't hear that, I'll just block that out. I need you to validate me, I need you and your beauty and your confidence, and I need all of that to make me look good, and I need to know that I've got you. I need that control.
Right.
When we're insecure, we want control, don't we? We want to feel we've got control.
I see.
So they would dismiss the feelings that you're saying. Say that this isn't right, I'm not happy, there's something wrong here. No, you're imagining that. We're in this for the long run. Let's do this.
I see.
Then the cheating started. He would cheat on me and tell me I had driven him to it. He would insist that he hadn't done anything wrong, and it was my fault. When I tried to leave him, he would tell me we belonged together, and I just needed to change my attitude and be more tolerant.
And on the other end of the scale, is there also the narcissist who... Does it actually happen that a narcissist would start a relationship and then break it down, like screw it up and toss it away and move on? Or is that rarer?
That can happen. That can happen. But if the partner has something that the narcissist really values, like, I don't know, fame or notoriety or money or something that they need, they'll stick with it.
Right.
Even if the partner isn't happy.
Wow.
You know, they will stick with it.
It's such an eye-opener, all of this.
Yeah, light bulbs go off in the room when I'm working with, you know, someone who's in a relationship. They go, oh my goodness, boom, 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 there we go, that's happened. Because it's so hidden, it's not out there and obvious, as you pointed out, as you said. So,
now, what can be done? Are there any... what would you advise for people, anybody who might be watching this, who's thinking, this is looking incredibly familiar? What steps can they take? Who should they talk to? Is there any sort of organisation they should speak to? Should they go to therapy? Should they... What is the next step?
Yeah, the first thing is they have to speak to their friends. They have to, if they felt that they're being slowly disconnected from people, the first thing they need to do is reconnect with that one friend that you think, actually, I'm going to be honest. Now, I know you had experience, you tried to be, and it was kind of dismissed. If that happens, go and have some therapy, talk to someone who's objective, you know, phone someone, even if it's someone like Samaritans, you know, it depends how bad it is.
Right, okay.
There isn't an organisation specifically for narcissism yet. There may be in the future, there should be. But I would get some counselling, get some therapy. You need some objectivity. You need another set of eyes looking in and saying, this isn't right, this isn't good, this isn't normal or healthy. You're unhappy, trust your feelings, and then start to look at it.
But actually, something just flashed through my mind as you said that, because one of the most bizarre occasions during this particular relationship was I said, I think you're being narcissistic. Oh, but everyone knows you're a narcissist.
Back at you.
Yes. And that was, and it got me thinking, am I a narcissist? Am I a narcissist?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a narcissist and I don't know. And it was this weird mind play, and I feel there definitely should be an organisation where people can go and figure out if the doubt has been put in them, am I a narcissist?
Yes.
And okay, what do I do now? How do I get out of this? My confidence is on the floor. What do I do?
Yeah.
I kept focusing on the times he was nice, and soon I was living for a good moment. That relationship completely destroyed my confidence. I'm now finding it difficult to trust anyone.
But you know, if someone was saying to themselves, am I a narcissist, and questioning their behaviour, they probably aren't one.
Oh, good. Because I spent ages thinking, am I?
Yeah.
Well, there was this one time where I insisted we do this, but maybe and it was awful, because I then thought, for a long time I thought, maybe I am actually a narcissist.
That's right. You know, we can have, as I said before, we can have big egos. We can, you know, be demanding. We can have all these traits. These are different to narcissistic personality. It's a disordered behaviour. A narcissist will not question themselves and say, I think I've got a problem, I need to get some help. If you're doing that, you're most likely not a narcissist. So yes, they would project that back. So they would say, well, everyone knows you're narcissistic. Because again, it's a projection. Everyone knows you're, you know, this way.
Yes.
So it's just bounced back to you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's just so much to think about.
It does take you like that, doesn't it?
It does, because it's this unspoken of is this thing that people are not aware of, but it's a private hell.
Yes, private hell
that looks wonderful from the outside, and it becomes really, really hard to speak to people. And really grateful that we've been able to tap into your knowledge and your experience, and hopefully information will be put at the end of this that people can reach out and start to ask questions and start to perhaps think, maybe I'm not mad.
Yes.
And maybe this isn't right.
Yes. This is so important. You know, this is why it's great, and thank you for inviting me to do this, because I think the more we talk about this, the more we get the message out and people go, this is happening for me.
Yes.
Where can I go? What can I do? Because it is, as you said, a private hell. I think that's a great way of looking at it. It's behind closed doors, it's hidden, and it disables someone.
What happens if somebody is left in a narcissistic relationship for a long time? What happen? Obviously, I understand about the confidence, but what is the worst that can happen?
The worst that can be done is really that you start to cut off from feelings. So you start to become quite what we call dissociative. So you doubt yourself that much, that you've been in the relationship that long, you're not in tune with your own reality anymore. So the worst that can happen is that you end up very, very anxious, agoraphobic, depressed, that your mental health just goes down and down.
Wow.
So, you know, it can take people into severe mental health issues if they are in a very abusive or narcissistic, injured relationship for a long time. Yes. And I've worked with people who've come out of that and, you know, been in a relationship for a long time. It takes a lot of work. It takes time to recover from something like that. So, yes, it can be really serious. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Explaining this, and we are going to put on links on how people can get some more information.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing this up.